Okay, you made me host and yeah, I'm not sure how to remove the virtual background.
No, that's okay. Actually, it looks good. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, you're live now.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this class of introduction to Bhagavad Gita. So let's start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Sri Gurum Deenatarinam. Yeah, welcome to the session 4, the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. So what we covered so far in the few sessions was we saw what is Bhagavad Gita and what was generally why people are afraid to read Bhagavad Gita and actually how it is not so and what are the glories of Bhagavad Gita from Srimad Gita Mahatmya. And then we saw about the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita which is covered: Bhagavan, Atma, Prakriti, Kala and Karma, that is the science of God, science of the soul, science of this material nature, science of activities and science of the time. So, and then we went into having a glimpse of each chapter of Bhagavad Gita, a very, a very bird's eye view of what each chapter is and how it is flowing. So that is in this page, in this book, contents of the Gita summarized. Contents. It's contents. So in that, we were seeing chapter 1, how Arjuna observes the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and how he undergoes the emotional turmoil and he feels himself that he cannot fight anymore. And then Krishna convinces him that why he has to fight, because the body is never to be killed, the soul is not to be killed at all, and the body can never be protected for long. And the discharge of the duty, one must remember this fact. And he explains how to practice this also. Actually, Bhagavad Gita is over in this, if not for Arjuna asking the third chapter question, how do I put this knowledge into practice? That is karma yoga. And then
అవునవును.
what is required for the karma yoga is the transcendental knowledge. What is transcendental knowledge? What is the effect of transcendental knowledge? How purifying it is, and how one should learn this transcendental knowledge, and what is the effect of that. So Krishna summarizes that. Then chapter 5 is karma yoga, that's action in Krishna consciousness, knowledge and action put together. And then he slowly introduces himself, that where is he in this picture, that how he is the supreme controller of all the planetary systems, but also he is an eternal well-wisher and friend of everyone, and one who knows this attains peace. So then we saw that, but how to know this, how to know that supreme person? We have something called mind and senses always disturbing us. So how to do dhyana or meditation, or bring everything into one vision, like with one goal. How can the chariot of the body bring the senses of the horses with the help of the reins of the mind, directed by the intelligence, and listening to the goal of the soul, how we can do this journey in this life. So he's explaining mainly about the control of the mind and the senses. And then he gives his opinion that of all the different yogis, one who is always intimately united with him is the best. Then in the second chapter, then he explains even more that if we have to think of him, then we need to have the knowledge about whom we are thinking about. So how he's telling that he is absolute, and how this whole world is made up of his energies, and how 4 kinds of people surrender to him and 4 don't. And of those people who surrender to him, the one with knowledge, after many, many births of cultivating knowledge, understands that Krishna is everything. In chapter 8, for such a person who is situated in this understanding throughout the life, and especially at the time of the death, he says that how we can attain his world beyond this material world, because the rule is whatever you think at the time of your death creates your next body. So that science is described in chapter 8. And chapter 9, this is a rahasya, the most confidential knowledge. He's giving more about himself and how he's intimately connected with a person who's practicing Bhakti Yoga. And even if he accidentally happens to commit a mistake, how Lord is ready to forgive him and reinstate him because of his practice of Bhakti Yoga. And then, so he said that what are the effects and how to do Bhakti, and this is the most confidential knowledge he is revealing. But to always absorb our thoughts in him, we need to know about his opulence, how varied he is, how he is present everywhere. So then he explains the Vibhuti Yoga, or the opulence of the Absolute, and how he is present in everything, in the sunshine, the moonshine, and everywhere we can see his presence. So after that, Arjuna is asking that if you are able to show me the form that confirms that you are the absolute truth, then this will be a lesson for people who claim to be God. And also, if you feel that I can see your divine form, please, I request you to show me that. And then we saw that how he saw everything in time and space in one place, that he was so confused whom he was seeing, that he's asking, who are you? Please tell me, who are you? Then Krishna says that I am time, and how I've come to destroy this world. And then Arjuna requests that let me see your Saumya Vapu, the most beautiful form of the Lord. And then the Lord finishes that by saying that one who thinks about me and always engages in only by pure devotional service and nothing else, Arjuna, I can be known. I who am everything, who's sustaining everything, who's in the universal form, who's showing, who's much, 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 much more greater, comes under the control of pure devotion. So then Arjuna asks chapter 12, that is Bhakti Yoga. So he asks Krishna, who's better? A person who is worshipping you in his in your impersonal form, or a person who puts transcendental faith in your personal form? Immediately Krishna answers that one who worships me with transcendental faith and who puts his faith on my transcendental form. Evam satata yuktaye bhaktastvam paryupasate echapyaksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha. Who's the best? So Krishna says, one who, immediately he answers that, one who puts the faith on my transcendental form, I consider him to be best. But also he says that a person who tries to worship me as the all-pervading, impersonal Brahma Jyoti light, also eventually surrenders to me and comes to me. The next two shlokas. But in the 5th and the 6th shloka, he makes a distinction. Among these paths, the path taken by a person who is worshipping my light form, by my formless form, for him the path is very difficult. Klesho adhikataras tesham. It's difficult for him. And then in the 6th he says, for one who is always surrendered to me, giving up etu sarvani karmani, mayi sanyasya matparaha ananyenaiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasa. For those people, tesham aham samuddarta mrityu samsara sagarat. I am the swift deliverer for those people who are entangled in the ocean of birth and death. Bhavami na chirat partha. Not a long time. They will attain me. Maya veshita chetasam. Then he starts explaining what are the different levels of devotion. The first is Mayeva mana adatsva, Mayi buddhim niveshaya, Nivasishyasi Mayeva ata urdvam na samshayaha. Mayeva mana adatsva. So put your mind completely on me. Mayi buddhim niveshaya. Apply your intelligence in me, in my service. Nivasishyasi Mayeva. Living like this, ata urdvam na samshaya. You will attain me without doubt. But it's not possible for everyone. So he says, if you are not able to do that, do this. What you should do? Do practice. So that with a goal that you will be able to achieve me. Atat chittam samadhatum na shaknoshi mayi stiram. Atat chittam samadhatum na shaknoshi mayi stiram. If you are not able to put your chitta in me, in your consciousness, in stiram, abhyasa yogena tatu. Practice that. For what? Mamichaptum dhananjaya, to attain me. But if you are not even able to do that, then give up your give up your sense of activities, give up your results to me. And then then he gives gradations. If you're not able to do that, do dhyana yoga. If you're not able to do that, at least do something selfless. So at least do something selfless. That is where a human life or a spiritual life starts. If you're not able to sympathize with this movement, with people, help them who are doing devotional service to me. If you're not able to do that, at least do some charitable work, but don't live in vain for yourself. Because if you're living in vain for yourself, you will neither be happy in this life nor the next life. That he said in the 4th chapter alone. And then he's kind of repeating it. Then he comes to beautiful verses in the last 6 verses of this chapter, that how one can become very dear to him. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha. One who is non-envious, one who is equal to all living entities, one who is friendly, Nirmamo nirahankaraha, one who is given the sense of proprietorship and false ego. Nirmamo nirahankaraha. Sama dukkha sukha kshami, one who treats happiness and distress as the same. And kshami, one who forgives. All those people the devotees who have these qualities are dear to me. Then again he says, Sama shatrocha mitrecha tata manapa manayoho. For them there is no difference between friends and enemies, honor and dishonor, heat and cold, sitoshna sukha dukkeshu, samasanga vivarjitaha, tulya ninda stutir mauni. Whether one person is blaspheming him or whether one person is praising him, for him it's the same. Tulya, ninda and stuti. Mauni, santushtu ena kenachit, one who is satisfied with whatever he got. Aniketa sthiramatir bhaktiman me priyo naraha. You will, if someone says that Bhakti Yoga is not the only thing mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, I humbly request them to read these concluding verses from verses, I think, 14 to 20 in the chapter 12. Every shloka he says that a person who is practicing Bhakti Yoga, who has these qualities of equanimity, who is seeing everyone as a friend, is very, very dear to me. Etu dharmamritamidam edoktam paryupasate shraddha dana mat parama bhaktaste ativa me priya. Is very, very dear to me. Very clearly. Nowhere else he says that this jnani is very dear, this yogi is very dear, this karmi is very dear. No. So this is the mind of the Lord. We can see that how he is explaining the pure devotional service and the quality of a pure devotee. And Srila Prabhupada explains that although it looks like he is repeating the qualities, repetition is meant for us to understand what the Lord wants from us. So that is chapter 12. So we saw that chapter 6 to chapter 12 is like the central part of Bhagavad Gita. It's like this book. The book. The cover is meant for keeping the book intact. Similarly, the front cover can be called first 6 chapters, and the back cover can be called the last 6 chapters. So the last 6 chapters, he explains, both of them aid Bhakti Yoga. So more about technicalities of how we are acting in this material world. So in 13th chapter, Arjuna asks a question, what is Kshetra and Kshetrajna? Means what is the field of activity, what is the body, what is the soul, and what is the super soul. So in the 2nd chapter, he said about body and soul and contrasted both. And he hinted about the super soul, that super soul or Paramatma is present in the body along with the Atma, in fact in the heart of the Atma. And super soul is considered to be the original proprietor of the body. And it's like 2 birds sitting on the branch. One bird is involved in eating the fruits that is there in that branch. And then after finishing eating in this branch, he goes to the next branch. And then he keeps eating the fruits in that branch. Some are tasty, sweet, some are bitter, some are mixed. Then after all the fruits are over, then he goes to the next branch. So like this way, the bird who is eating is the Atma, and the bird who is watching is the Paramatma. And the bird who is watching is waiting when this eating bird will turn his face towards me. So this we saw in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Now he explains more about the super soul. He says that how the king is the actual proprietor of the land, of his kingdom, and a farmer may be the proprietor of its particular piece of land. But the king, if the king decides that he wants that land for some other purposes, the farmer has to give. He can give some compensation, but ultimately the person who has ownership of that land, primary ownership is the king, secondary ownership is the farmer. Like the individual soul is like the farmer, and the super soul or Paramatma is like the king. So he is explaining what the super soul does. Upadrashta Anumantacha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaraha. So he witnesses and he permits and he sustains, and he's a constant friend to the soul watching him. So a person who has this vision of seeing the soul and the super soul everywhere, he says, will not be degraded by his mind. Then a person who knows all this, the body, the soul and the super soul and the interrelationship with them, attains liberation from the material world. So chapter 14 is more about the workings of the material world. Why we work, why we act in certain ways at certain times. So it is an analogy of action. So we can apply this to ourselves and also to others. So we discussed last week how the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are like, puppeteering. We are like puppets under them. They are like moving us up and down. So he's explaining that there are three modes of material nature, and he says that when the pure rain water comes and falls in the mud, it mixes with the mud and becomes muddy. So similarly, the pure consciousness of the pure spirit soul, when it comes in contact with the material nature, it becomes contaminated like muddy. And one more example I remember my teacher gave was like if you wear a glass, your glasses, and there is a black color paper on top of the glasses. So how much you can see with that? And then there is a red color paper, transparent sheet, but it's red in color. Then how much you can see? Transparent but black. No, sorry, black sheet of paper, and then a red sheet of paper, and then a transparent sheet of paper. So the black sheet of paper is when we are controlled by the mode of ignorance. We can see very less. What is fact, what is illusion, we'll not be able to figure out. When in the mode of passion, also we may see what is right and what is wrong, but we will choose the wrong thing to be right. Especially when we are under the influence of lust, anger, greed. We know that, this is wrong, but then by the push of the mode of passion, we would do the wrong thing, and always we are in constant anxiety. And then the transparent sheet of paper is that one is in the mode of goodness. So one more example he gives is that one who is chained by a iron chain, a silver chain, and then a gold chain. Our hands and legs are tied, but then gold and silver and copper, but ultimately we are tied. So a person who is in the mode of, and these three modes of material nature are always in constant competition. Goodness wants to defeat passion and ignorance. Passion wants to defeat ignorance and goodness. In the same way, ignorance wants to defeat goodness and passion. Meaning we are always constantly, going between these three modes of material nature. And the best mode to be in is that is suited, that is conducive, is the mode of goodness. The mode of goodness, one who is happy, but he is conditioned by his sense of happiness. For example, he gives an example of scientists, poets, and literati, and so they are all like living a life of contemplation, and they are highly intellectual people. They are not in the mode of passion, but they are conditioned by the sense of happiness. So what happens is that conditioning to the sense of happiness makes one come to be born again and again in this material world. So finally, he says that all the three modes are binding, but one who goes beyond these modes, mamchayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So that is why in the morning, we start our day as early as possible in the morning and offer our mind and senses and body in the service of Krishna by chanting the holy names of the Lord, Japa. So in that way, we are at that point of time, we are transcending the modes of nature. And just like if there is a fever and we take some medicine for the fever, the effect lasts for 4 to 5 hours. Similarly, our practice of devotional service also lasts for the whole day. Then once we are in the mode of ignorance, again sleeping and getting up, we start this again. So he explains that what are the symptoms of one who has attained the transcendental state and how one can attain the transcendental state. So then chapter 15 is a yoga of the Supreme Person. So the point is, it is not that just the material modes of nature are acting, because we are also acting. We are making choices. So once we made a choice, then we get a result. The material modes of nature make sure that we get the result according to what choice we have made. So still the choice is there in us. So that's why he is teaching us the science of to know about the material modes of nature, so that we can analyze our actions. What I should do, what I should not do, when I should do, why somebody is behaving like this, what is the what is working behind everyone. So that vision we will get by the 14th chapter. And 15th chapter is, like Sri Madhvacharya has said, that this chapter is the most important chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And it's true that, in set of five verses, he says the whole concept of Bhagavad Gita in this. So the first one, he starts with an analogy of how we are getting entangled into the material world. He says, Urdhva Moolam Adaha Shakam Ashwattam Prahur Avyayam. Ashwattam is banyan tree, and he says that there is a banyan tree, but it's upside down. Urdhva Moolam Adaha Shakam. The roots are up and the branches are down. And then it is so huge, and the branches and the leaves are said to be the hymns of the Vedas. And where this starts, where this ends, nobody knows. It's such a huge banyan tree. So basically, this banyan tree represents our entanglement in this material world. And this kind of banyan tree we can see. I mean, in this world, we always see the trees upright, straight. But this is upside down. So upside down tree is a tree that is found in the reflection in a lake. If there is a tree and there is a lake, and then you look at the lake, and the tree that is reflected in the lake, the first thing that you see is the lowest will be the branches and the leaves, and then that will be down, and when you go up, the root of the tree is there. So he says that this material world is situated on a lake of desire. So one who knows this, that it may be an apple tree full of apples, but if we are only absorbed and engrossed in the reflection of the tree, and we want to go and get the apple, how can we take the apple and taste the apple in a reflection tree? You can see the apple, but we can't taste it. So this is a material world. So we can see everything. We can know, yeah, happiness is here. Oh, tomorrow I will get this. And one day nicely I can settle in one place with a house and a car, and then my kids will go to college, and then I'll have a happy life. It never happened. It's not happening now, and it will not happen also. So the point is, so why he's telling this is, if there is an upside down tree, that means there is a real tree. Without the presence of a real tree, you cannot there cannot be a reflection. So the spiritual world is a real existence, eternal existence, and the material world is its reflection. And once we cut this entanglement with the material world with the sword of detachment and turn our face towards the spiritual world, which is a real tree, then we start to taste the real fruit. So this is the first 5 verses, and then he says a very important shloka, that Mamaiva Amsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutaha Sanatanaha. All of you, Mamaiva Amsha, all the Jiva Bhutas, the living entities in this world are Mamaiva Amsha, my part and parcels. But my part and parcels, and what are we doing here? Being his part and parcels, Manaha Sashta Nindriyani Prakritistani Karshati. Manaha Sashtan Indriyani. Indriyani is senses, Manaha is mind. Along with the mind, 6 senses. Actually, there are 5 senses and the mind is the master of the senses. So along with the mind and the 6 senses, Prakritistani, situated in this Prakriti, in this material world, what we are doing? Karshati. Karshati is struggling, grappling hard for existence. Life after life after life. Then he explains how the soul goes from one body to another body, and then we carry the vasanas, or we carry the impressions from the last life, like the air carries aromas. If you're going to throw trash, you can see the aroma. If you're passing by a perfume shop in the mall, you can see the aroma. Why? Because the air goes like that way. We are carrying the impressions from one life to another life, and how it is possible? By the mercy of the Paramatma. And who can see this? Only those who have developed mind and the eyes to see it can see it. Otherwise, other people, how much ever they try, they cannot see. That's what he says. Etanto yoginas chainam pashyantyatman yavasthitam etantopya akritatmano. If the mind is not perfected, even if they try, we cannot see. Then he says how to perfect the mind. So he says this, that the main thing of existence in this world is the sun. According to Ayurveda, even if the sun had to rise 1 minute after it is supposed to rise there, the whole world will come to a rest. And Prabhupada explains in a conversation I heard, we all have experience of this being here, after autumn, when the spring begins. So in autumn, we have seen that, all the trees are only branches. But once there is sunlight, immediately all the trees, there's small, unlimited number of leaves come out immediately. So that is the power of the sunlight. Srila Prabhupada gives this example. How many millions and millions of trees, and then within a week we see that it has become green. So that is the power of the sunlight. And what Krishna says, Yadaditya gatam tejo jagat bhashayate kilam. Yad aditya gatam tejo. The teja, the splendor that comes from Aditya, Jagat bhashayate akilam, which illuminates the whole world. Yet chandramasi, yet chagnav. That splendor from the moon, that splendor from the fire. These are all the sources of the light. Aditya, Chandra and Agni. Sun, moon and fire. Yadaditya gatam tejo jagat bhashayate kilam yat chandramasi yat chagnav tat tejo vidhi mamakam. I am the splendor of the sun, moon and the fire. Okay, after sun there is some life here, but then if the world is not resting on the orbit, how there can be lives in this earth? So he says, Gama Vishyacha Bhutani Dharayami Aham Ojasa. By my energy, by my Ojasa, by my energy, I keep the planet in the orbit. Gama Vishyacha Bhutani Dharayami Aham Ojasa. Pushnami Chausadi Sarva Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha. After the world is kept in the orbit, what we need vegetation. So for vegetation, he says, I become moon and I make the vegetables and herbs succulent. And so he is the sun and he is the person who is keeping the earth planet in its orbit, and he is the person who is providing whatever is required for the vegetation, and who are eating, we are eating. Okay. After eating what we want, if we are not able to digest, we can imagine what a pain it is. Okay, so he says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha. After all this, I go inside their belly and I am the Vaishvanara Agni. So Srila Prabhupada says, there is a temperature that is maintained in the body, right? Everywhere we go now, especially coronavirus, they detect the temperature. So we know that where there is fire, there is heat. So according to Ayurveda, the fire of digestion is Vaishvanara. So Krishna says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha Pranapana Samayuktaha. I balance prana and apana, pachamyannam chaturvidam. Always my kids, they say you fought, we fought and smell. But if you're not able to fought, that's it, we are dead. So Krishna is the one belching and farting and, balancing the air. So he's saying, I am doing it. And after, there is sunlight and there is this planet Earth and there is vegetation, which is all given by him. And then the power to cook because he's Agni. And then after we eat, he is the one who is helping us to digest. And when the digestive fire goes, what happens? When the digestive fire goes, it becomes as stiff as frozen. The dead body has no heat because the fire is not there, and that is why when we are eating also it's a yajna. So yeah, so that's why we offer the food, and then when we eat also we honor the prasadam because that's a yajna. We put the food in the fire, and that's why we need to be careful what we put when we put, according to Ayurveda. So after being that, then after we are nicely fed, then we start thinking. Who gives that power? Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattaha smritir jnanam apohanam cha. From me comes remembrance, forgetfulness and knowledge. Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyo. Of all the Vedas I am to be known. Vedantakrit vedavit eva chaham. I am the controller of the Vedas. So how, after knowing such a, all-powerful Lord who has provided us everything in every aspect of life. And he's saying, in this world, Arjuna, I am this much. But there is another world, Dvavimau Purushav Loke, Ksharas Chakshara Evacha. There is a world where we are all Kshara, fallible world. There is a world where there is infallible people. Sharaha Sarvani Bhutani Kutasto Akshara Uchyate. The infallible people never make a mistake. But I am celebrated as the Lord of the Vedas and Purushottama among those infallible people. And finally he says, one who knows this, idamuktam iti guhyatamam shastram, this guhyatama, more confidential, that knowing how I am present everything. Idamuktam mayanaga, now I have told to you Anaga, O sinless Arjuna, yetat budva buddhiman syat, one who knows this becomes intelligent. What he does, krita krityascha bharata, engages in my devotional service. So that is chapter 15. That is why it's called the yoga of the supreme person. Then chapter 16, what stops us? Why only some people are able to do that and some people are not, and why we ourselves behave divine sometimes and behave demoniac most of the times. So he explains about the divine and demoniac nature in the chapter 16. The first three is the divine Abhayam Sattva Shamshuddhir Jnana Yoga Vyavasthiti. He explains what is the quality of the divine natures, and then he says, Arjuna, don't worry, you are a person who is born of a divine quality. Let me now explain what is demoniac. That's this is a chapter that everyone has to read, because verse after verse after verse he explains Dambo, Darpo, Abhimana, Krodha, Parusham, Evacha, Ajnanam, Chabi, Jatas, Partha, Sampadam, Ashurim. Pride, arrogance, ignorance, and a person who thinks that he is everything, there is no God, there is nothing in control, everything is meant for my enjoyment, and for my enjoyment, whoever is helping, they are my friend, whoever is against me, they are my enemies, I kill them, and I amass more money, and I live a powerful and aristocratic life. And he says one very important shloka in this, he says, Trividam Narakasyedam. There are three gates that are leading to hell. What are the three gates? Dwaram Nashanam Atmanaha. They completely destroy the gates of the soul, the gate to liberation. What is that? Kama, Krodhas, Tata, Lobhas. Lust, anger and greed. Tasmat etat trayam tyajet. Because it's going to pull you to hell, Arjuna. Please give up these three. And those people who are given up, that, you see what he says, the man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. And he says, for those who don't follow, I put them again and again in demoniac lives, life after life after life. So chapter 17 is about the divisions of faith. So Arjuna is asking a question that what happens to a person who's very faithful? This is very, very apt question in Kali Yuga. People are ready to follow anything. I mean, surrender to anyone, but they are not surrendering to the right people, but they are manufacturing the principles of scripture and worship according to their own imagination. Krishna, are they in the mode of goodness or passion or ignorance? Krishna doesn't answer that straight because he's kind of little, he's thinking why Arjuna is even asking this question. So he explains that how, immediately explains about faith. There are three kinds of faith according to the three modes of material nature. From this on, from 14 to 18, the three modes of material nature comes on and on and on. So many things he explains, that the food we eat, the activity we perform, the penances, the determination. So here he says that how the worship there is in the three modes of material nature. Those who are in the mode of goodness worship the demigods. Those who are in the mode of passion worship the demons. And those who are in the mode of ignorance worship the ghosts and spirits and powerful human worship. Like, worship means we don't need to show agarbatti and things. If we are thinking of constantly watching a television serial or thinking of them, we are worshipping them. If you are thinking of some powerful person in this world, we are worshipping them. So that is in the mode of passion. And then he explains more that about the food, what are the characteristics of the food that is in the mode of goodness. So we select those foods that will help us grow in the mode of goodness and avoid those foods. For example, food that is passion, foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease. And mode of ignorance, food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. A dead body is untouchable. So whether it's of a human being or an animal or even an insect. So anybody who eats that, the food that is decomposed and putrid and tasteless is definitely in the mode of ignorance. And then he says 3 types of sacrifice, and then what are the different types of austerities of the body, austerity of the mind, and austerity of the words, 3 kinds of austerity. And then, so he concludes that with telling that anything done as a sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Pritha, is impermanent. The follower may be very sincere, but then if he is not putting his faith in the Supreme, then it is impermanent. It is called asat, and he says it is useless both in this life and in the next. So conclusion is chapter 18, which is the perfection of renunciation. So Krishna explains so many different things in this, and one of the main thing is about the how an action is performed. Like we say that, I wanted to do this, but I was not able to do this. I should have done this, and he should have done this. So this is what he says. The place of action. Adhishtanam tata karta karanam cha pritak vidam vividas cha pritak chesta daivam chaivatra panchamam. The place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. All these 5 factors constitute for an action to be performed, and mainly the super soul. If all the 4 are there, what are the 4? Place of the action, that is the body, the performer, one who does the action, the various senses that are there with which he performs the action, and the kinds of endeavor, the trying he does, and ultimately the super soul. And he says how an actor or a person who performs can be situated in 3 different modes. How his determination can be in 3 different modes. How the activities can be in 3 different modes. And what are their conclusive respective results. So he says that in depth, and then finally, yeah, his text 60 is so nice. Under illusion, you are now declining to act to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. So he says, if you are Machitta Sarva Durgani, Mat Prasada Tarishyasi. I like this sloka because this is something that we have to remember when we are in trouble. Machitta, if you are putting me in your consciousness, Sarva Durgani, all the Durga, the obstacles that are coming, Mat Prasadat, by my mercy, Tarishyasi, you will cross over. But Ata Chetvam, Ahankaran, by false ego, you are not listening to me. Nash Roshyasi, if you don't listen to me, what will happen to you? Vinakshyasi. So this is, something we can think about. Actually, how he's saying that one who is always absorbed in him in devotional service will not, nothing will bother. It's like this. Like, are we, when mothers or when we become adults, are we bothered about the toys? I have this toy and I don't have this toys. No, because we have outgrown that. But the same way, like it may be a small thing for us. It may be a junk for us, and I would have trashed it, thinking that it's a junk, but it's a huge thing for a 5-year-old. That is his life and world. He will cry, rolling and tumbling that I want that you put in the trash, which is a useless thing. It can be really useless. So, but then when we grow up, then the toy doesn't matter. So similarly, a person who is grown up or elevated in consciousness, for him what doesn't matter? Happiness and distress, or obstacles in the life, or pain and pleasure. You see what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us? It's teaching us the way to live a perfect and a peaceful life, and it's not utopian. He's giving us step-by-step direction also, how you can do that. So, yeah, he says this, and finally, he says that, he gives this, he says, after giving Arjuna the choice, you can now, I have answered all your questions more than what you have asked. Now you can think, deliberate on it. Vimrishyeta asheshena yete ichasi tatakuru. Please act yete ichasi. Whatever you like, you do, but deliberate on what questions you ask and what answer I give, and you take a decision. Then Arjuna is telling, Nashta moha smritir labda tvat prasadat mayachyuta. By your mercy, my illusion is completely gone. Stitosmi gata sandeha. I have no doubts. Karishye vachanam tava. I will do as you have instructed me. Then, Krishna says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji imam namaskuru. The same thing that he said at the end of the chapter 9. Think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage to me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Again and again, he is using this Gita and putting a trailer. Come to me, come to me. This is not a place where you can stay. You can try your best, and he's contrasting his world and this world. Why? Because he's really interested in us. We are his part and parcels. More than what we desire our own happiness, he desires our eternal happiness. Then he says the famous Sharma Shloka, Sarva Dharman Parityajya, Maam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, Aham Tvam Sarva Dharman Parityajya. Give up all varieties of religion or looking for shelter in various different dharmas. Maam Ekam, surrender unto me. Sharanam Vraja, Aham Tvam. What I will do to you if you surrender, Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami. Never mind what papa you have done, when you have done, whether knowingly or unknowingly, whether it is small or big. Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami. I give you liberation. And if you have a doubt, do you think I can do that? Don't doubt. Ma Suchaha. Don't doubt and do not fear that I will be able to do that. So, Oh my God, I think did my screen sharing stop?
Yes, Mataji.
I think we have some more slides, right?
Uh, yeah, let me see if I can do the screen share.
Somehow in this slide we have only this. We had some questions by Arjuna.
Let me see if I can do the screen share. One second. So this one's, I need to open. Yeah, one second. Let me open the file.
Okay, so meanwhile, so and also there were slides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have?
Yeah. I'm just opening it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after telling this, what is the falashruti of reading the Bhagavad Gita? Sanjaya is telling. The last 74 to 78, 4 verses of Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. So is there a slide before this where Sanjaya says, or after this? Oh, that comes after this, right? Okay, maybe we missed that. Okay, so the last, let me conclude this. So Sanjaya, after hearing this, he's telling that I have heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna, and so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. And again, he's telling that it was so nice hearing this, and by the mercy of the spiritual master, I heard this perfectly from the mouth of the master of all mystics, and finally he gives his signature. Wherever there is Krishna, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, who is the master of all mystics, Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha, wherever there is Partha, Arjuna, the supreme archer, Tatra Shri, opulence, Vijayo, victory, Bhutir, extraordinary power, Dhruva Nitir, definitely morality, Matir Mama. That is my opinion. So here we can see that how this is the effect of Sanjaya is bestowing this, that this is what one gets when they just continue to read this Bhagavad Gita throughout their life. And Arjuna's important questions that steered Bhagavad Gita was in chapter 2.7. He says that I am now, till then he was talking, then he says that I am now confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell what is certain for me. I am your disciple, a soul surrendered to you. Then in the 3rd chapter, 1st verse, he is asking again, after hearing such beautiful thing of the soul, why should you engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? Then again in the 6th chapter, he says, when Krishna says that control the mind, Arjuna, and do this, Arjuna, thank God Arjuna said this, the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. I think it is more difficult than controlling the wind. Then he says that, Krishna says that, it's okay, you have to try, there's no other go. At one point you have to do this because you will not advance. Then he has a doubt that, in 6.38, he's asking that if a person is not able to achieve success, then will he perish? Invested his time in spiritual life, and if he's not attaining perfection in that, then he has lost his time in the material life also. So for that, Krishna nicely answers that don't worry, he is never at a loss. And he answers that how he starts from where he left. Then 8.1, he asks that 5 questions, which again state the answers for the whole chapter: Brahman, self, fruitive activities, material manifestations, and the demigods. Krishna explains that. And then in the 10th chapter, he asks again, please tell me in detail of your divine opulences which you pervade all these worlds. So he starts to explain how he's pervading everything. And then, and then in the 11th chapter, he says, so if you are everywhere, then show me that you are everywhere by showing your cosmic form. Then there are both personal and impersonal forms. Then he asked in chapter 12, which a person who worships, please tell me what's your opinion, Krishna, who's the best? So there comes the Bhakti Yoga. And then 13th again, he starts asking about more about Prakriti, Purusha, and the field and the knower of the field. So he says about the in-depth knowledge of the super soul. And again about the 3 modes of material nature, Arjuna is asking how to transcend these modes. So the answer was 15 and 16 and 17 and 18, little bit of all the chapters Krishna spreads his answers. And then in 17.1 again he's asking that if a person is faithful but to a wrong person and not to the Supreme, what is his destination? And 18th finally he's asking, I want to understand the purpose of Tyaga and Sannyasa, renunciation and renounced order of life. Please explain that to me. So because of these wonderful transcendental questions by Arjuna, we have the Bhagavad Gita here with us. So we will pause here, and all glories to Srimad Bhagavad Gita, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and his brilliant purports, and all glories to all our spiritual masters who has time and again explained these purports to us, because of which we are able to make at least little bit of what is said in the Bhagavad Gita. So Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. If you have any points, questions, comments, corrections, please go ahead now.
Hare Krishna. Before we open the forum for questions and discussions, I really want to thank you, Mataji. Feeling so grateful. I've never heard such a beautiful flow of the Bhagavad Gita, and everyone on the call are extremely fortunate to get your association like this. It was a very beautiful flow as you were explaining one chapter after the other, and to see the Bhagavad Gita put together like this really makes so much sense, and the appreciation for Bhagavad Gita has certainly increased. And I'm sure anyone who's hearing the Bhagavad Gita for the first time with these 2 sessions, the previous session and today's session, they would get an entire idea of what the Bhagavad Gita is all about. So very, very thankful to you. And we can open up this forum for any questions or anything the devotees would like to ask. Thank you so much.
Mataji, I'm so thankful to you.
No
Because
way.
without you, these beautiful PowerPoints wouldn't have come up. You have put all your time and energy, and you're ready to work in the background, always giving credit to others. So, I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me this opportunity and, putting all your efforts, creating such beautiful slides so that we can understand it better. Thank you so much.
We're fortunate to have someone who has Bhagavad Gita and fingertips. Amazing.
No, I don't. No. I have a long way to go. Yeah, but it's like we are touching the ocean at the fingertip. Okay, anybody has any questions or points you want to make?
Hare Krishna, Mataji, what a grand finale. Thank you so much. Dhanavad pranams to you and all the Matajis for the glorious services. Mataji, I just have one question. I was just listening to your last few points, and you mentioned that Arjuna asked about Tyaga and renunciation, right? So doesn't he ask a similar question in the 4th chapter, if I'm not wrong? Like Karma Phala Tyaga and sannyas, renunciation. So what's the difference, Mataji?
yeah, so in those chapters, it's more about there is no stress on especially tyaga and sannyasa, especially sannyasa, the renunciation, and the here the stress is on sannyasa, because ultimately that's what the perfection of renunciation is. I mean, we can go back. I'm just going there. The purpose of renunciation and of the renounced order of life. There it was more about working with attachment and working with detachment, and offering the results to the Lord. So here it's about what is the purpose of the renunciation, and what is the purpose of the renounced order of life, tyaga and sannyasa. Because unless we get this, I mean, we cannot go. That's what he repeatedly says, the same thing. But this is like, that's what we find, that there is a repetition in many places. But it is like a conclusion of all the, but we see that in each and every place, he's adding to what he has already told before. So what he has already told before about Tyaga is little bit, but then when there is an opportunity, it comes again, he adds something more to it, and then he adds something more to it. Like that way, he's building up. So that's why I have heard many people give a lecture on one topic. Like, for example, Tyaga, taking from the first chapter to the 18th chapter, how the Lord, builds up this and gives everything that's connected in a perfect way, slowly, in a gradual fashion. So that's what I could think about, Mataji. But in depth, I would also like to study like that. I've heard a few lectures like that. Like, for example, we can do that sessions. We can take all the shlokas that he talks about anger. All the shlokas where he talks about desire or other things. And then, when we see the link, it is so beautiful that he has always added up on what he said before. I'm sure I haven't answered completely, but this much only is my understanding, and we can definitely take up this question with other speakers, Mataji.
Well, thank you so much, Mataji, for your wonderful answer. Like you say, maybe there's like onion peel, you just keep peeling different layers and go deeper, and maybe there's more to it. And thanks really so much, Mataji, for giving me that pointer. Thank you so much, Mata. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Your association, and especially your song, on Mukundamala Stotra is very purifying to all of us. Okay, anything else?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much. Very nice class, Mataji. Mataji, I just have a question. Like, is this the end of the course, or what will you are going to do next session?
Yeah. Basically, I mean, we didn't plan this way. So now from next week onwards, we will take the shlokas that is pertaining to one topic. For example, there are 5 topics. Maybe we may need to extend the 8 weeks to 1 or 2 more weeks more, maybe 10 weeks. So we will see each topic, Bhagavan, our Supreme Personality of Godhead, and whatever verses we can cover, basic high-level understanding of the science of God with their respective verses and their chapters in it. I thought, we could do that in the next coming sessions.
Okay, Mataji. Yeah, thank you so much. Just curious about what next will be there. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, it was very wonderful class, Mataji. Very informative and very useful for us. Mataji, in the beginning of chapter 13, you mentioned the super soul, and you said like he is a witness, he permits, he sustains, and is a constant friend. So, can you please explain on each of this, Mataji, like his role, how is a witness, or what he permits, what he sustains, and how is a constant friend? Like we have Paramatma inside, so how we can understand which role he is doing, or how do we recognize it, Mataji?
Very nice question, Mataji. From your question, I think you must have been a rishi in your previous life, asking so many questions and so pertinent and so nice, in-depth questions. Thank you so much. I will answer according to my capacity. In text 23, chapter 13, he says, Upadrashta Anumantacha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaraha Paramatmeti Chapyukto Dehesmin Purushaha Paraha. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. So what he oversees each and every action, what we did. He is a witness to it. And what he permits, that activity that we ought to do according to our karma. So that's why we say that, we will say that, oh, I thought I wanted to do that, but then, something happened, then I thought I did that. No, something didn't happen, then we didn't think. He as a Paramatma, he is making us go towards where we have to enjoy or suffer our karma phala. So that's what Upadrashta Anumanta. He is overseer and he is permitter. Without his permission, we cannot do. And he is overseeing because he is he's supremely conscious. There's nothing that can escape that we even think or do. So that is why he's an overseer. And how he is, and then also in the 15.15, he says, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishto, I am situated in everyone's heart. From me comes Mattaha Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. Smriti is remembrance. What remembrance we want to function in this life, that much he gives. Smritir Jnanam. Jnanam is knowledge. So he gives that knowledge that we need. And Apohanam, he gives the forgetfulness also. So what is that we need to forget? We need to forget what we did wrong and who did wrong to us in millions and zillions of lifetimes. Imagine if we remember all that, can we live peaceful life? No. So like this way, super soul has many, this whole chapter is full of the functions of the super soul. I'm just like, highlighting a few of it in these few shlokas. And also it's explained that how he's conscious of everything, like the sunlight from the sun is spread throughout the world. Like that way, the super soul is having complete control and presence over this body, as well as he's also Vishwatma. Ata Vishvesha Vishwatma Vishwamurte Swakeshme, Queen Kunti says. So he's not only as Paramatma, he's Vishwatma also. He's the super soul of this universe. So that's why he's under complete control. He's cognizant of everything and is conscious of everything. And apart from that, he's a supreme friend, because that is, again, he says in one shloka, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddesha Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudani Maya. Just like I am a driver of the car and I'm driving the car. Krishna gives this example. Yantra Rudani Maya. Like that way, the super soul is sitting. Ishvaraha Sarva Bhutanam Hriddeshe. In the heart, he sits and he drives us through our different karma. The results of the karma that we have to get, he drives us through that. This is in just a very brief summary, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. So the overseas, it's witness, and the permit part you said was very nice, Mataji. So actually, so he gives the permission to do everything, Mataji, like in material life, whatever actions we do. Only he permits to do.
If he doesn't permit, we can't even lift this hand. That's why, there are, the eyes stop working, the hand stop working. I want to lift my hand, but I cannot lift my hand. I cannot forget this one famous singer, one Mataji who's a devotee. She shared this. She was supposed to take on a very, she was a wonderful, excellent playback singer in the Hollywood. She was about to become very, very famous, and she was doing her very important playback song. And at that time, she got a stroke. And she was carrying the paper, and she says that, I can no more, sound can come from my mouth, and the paper, my hands cannot hold the paper. And then after that, that's when that she took Bhagavad Gita and she read it. And I mean, I met her some 20-25 years back, but I could remember this. At that point, she said this, that I wanted, we think that we are moving according to our wish, but then she said that I understand that, it is a super soul who's permitting us to talk, to see all the, whatever actions. If that permission is not there, then we cannot do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Mataji. And as a constant friend, Mataji, is he like a constant friend? Is he always guiding us, or does he not do it always, only for particular thing guides?
Yeah, maybe we should do a class picking up those shlokas where he says that I am the friend, I am your dearmost friend. Because many shlokas he said. One famous is 5.29, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. Of all the yajnas, I am the enjoyer. Why? Because Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Whether you agree it or not, I am the controller of all the worlds. But not only that, Arjuna, I am your Suhridam. I am your well-wisher, Sarva Bhutanam, not only of one and not others. I am Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. For Hiranyakashipu like souls, for Prahalad like souls. Suhridam, benefactor and well-wisher, Sarva Bhutanam, Nyatvamam, Shantim Richatim. Because suppose, for Obama's kids, we know them, that for them to go to a college or get a job, will that be a problem? No, because they are rightful heir of a ex-president who has very, powerful influence, who is his well-wisher. So similarly, we are all connected to Krishna as his part and parcel, as we are all his children, and he is our Sukhrid, he is our well-wisher. So knowing that such a powerful person who is a Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, I mean, some person who has influence in some part of the country, if we are, somebody is connected to him as a family member, then how much peace they have. Then we can imagine that the Supreme Lord is not an ordinary Lord. He is Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He is the Aham Adirhi Devanam Maharshinam Cha Sarvashaha. He is the controller of the demigods and the sages as well. But he is our dearmost friend also. Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. So many places he says, Arjuna, I am waiting for you. You take the decision. I mean, you can see that the friendship and the love and the intimacy that flows between the shlokas of Krishna and Arjuna. And this rasa, continues and becomes more solidified in Srimad Bhagavatam and the most solidified in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yeah, so that shloka he specifically says, I am the dearmost friend, and many other shlokas also, Mataji.
Okay, Mataji. So the point you said is a friend for Prahalad and Hiranyakashipu. So he guides them in both them in according to their consciousness to reach Krishna. For
Yes.
Hiranyakashipu, he killed him, so that way he reached Krishna.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Mataji. And one more question, Mataji. You said about we carry, in chapter 15, you mentioned that we carry impressions from the last life. But we don't know, we cannot realize, and you said Krishna is giving the forgetfulness. So how does that impression help us to either go or develop in spiritual life, or for example, if I want to develop but my impressions are bad, like a more bad karma or something, so that is going to stop me. So how does this impact me, Mataji, since I will be having the impression, right?
Yeah. So the devotional service is independent of our karma. So it is said that even if we have very bad karma, this I heard from Bhanu Maharaj's lecture, one person who is coming from a pious family, okay, and another person who is coming from a family of thieves and sinful activity. both of them, if they take devotional service, will their background affect their advancement? No. It is up to what their association is after coming to the devotional service, how much they are committing themselves, their sincerity and their determination and their association develops their speed in advancement of devotional service. But if you have been a devotee in the previous life and you carry that vasanas, that will help you more, because you will immediately you can relate to things. When somebody says this, explains these things, you have a feeling in yourself telling that yes, this is true, yes, I have been looking for it, because that means you have started that in the previous life. So good or bad karma cannot affect our devotional service. What matters is our sincerity and how we offer our efforts to Krishna, and pleased with that, how merciful we are going to be recipients of his mercy, and then we advance like that. So you see, this is chapter 5, text 8 and 9. That's where he says the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. The second one is the living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So this is to do with more material life. For example, if we have, in that purport, Prabhupada says that, but if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life he gets a corresponding body. He does not necessarily get a human body again. He can get the body of a cat, dog, hog, demigod, or one of many other forms, for there are 88,400,000 species of lives.
Okay, Mataji. So devotional service is free from karma. That's very interesting, Mataji. I did not know that. So I was thinking if you have bad karma, a devotional process may be disturbed by that. But it's nice to know.
You know what? If we have bad karma and we have to suffer also, but if we are utterly sincere and determined to follow the regulative principles and the chanting of the holy names of the Lord with utmost sincerity and attention, then even that by that bad karma, what we are suffering also, our bhakti will grow.
The suffering will be an like something which nutritions the growth of the devotion.
Krishna does it like that, because we learn lessons like that. But in case if we have a good karma, then we become a big orator, we use that, then we use our abilities in devotional service. Again, that also helps us grow internally our relationship with the Lord.
Whatever karma may be, if you are in devotional service, if using in devotional service, that will be used to grow the service. But
that's what he says by meaning that sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam raja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami.
Okay.
So everything can be dovetailed in Krishna's service, because more than us, he is eager to get us back.
Yes, Mataji. When you said, I was remembering like the parents, wherever the kid go, the parents want to go and protect them and get them back, because they are part and parcel of the parents. Right. So the same way, Krishna is coming and getting us back, since you are part and parcel. Yes, Mataji. Mataji, final question, Mataji. You said about Sarva Dharman Parityaja. So in chapter, while talking chapter 17, you said in the mode of goodness, we do demigod worship. So like you said, like Sarva Dharman Parityaja, does it also, the demigod worship also come under the Dharman, to leave everything and only to concentrate on Krishna?
See, this is a topic that he has addressed in two chapters, chapter 7 and chapter 9, four shlokas each, and where he is telling that when he is showing his Vishwarupa, he shows that how all the demigods are his part and parcels. And he also shows that how he is a root of all the material existence. And the demigods, they themselves, what they do, Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surayaha. Suras and demigods, what they are doing, Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti. So that's why when they get up, they worship. They start worshipping the Lord during the month of Margasisha. And so that's at that point of time, they will not be here coming to bless us with our Graha Pravesam and our marriages and other things, because we invite the demigods to come. Without them, we cannot be blessed, but they are busy worshipping the Lord. So that's why on those days they say that, your human beings stop doing your auspicious activities like marriages and other things. And then since the demigods are themselves worshipping the Lord, you also worship the Lord. So like that way, he is showing that how and then he is not against demigod worship, but those who worship the demigods go to the demigods, and Devan Deva Yajo Yanti Madbhakta Yanti Mamapi. So in that he differentiates the destination, because what happens to the demigod worship and the demigod planets, they live only up to the life of one Manvantara. One Manvantara is 1/14th of a day of Brahma, and then they change. So Brahma's lifetime itself is like one swasa of Mahavishnu. So that's why it's an offense to equate. If you want to worship the demigods, Krishna says, I am there in your heart as a super soul, and I make sure that I will make your faith steady. But please know that by worshipping the demigod, you are indirectly worshipping me only, because in fact, I am only offering you the benediction that they are offering you. So this much he says in the 9th chapter. So what happens is, when we worship Krishna, we are not neglecting the demigods. In fact, we are giving them full satisfaction. Demigods are fully satisfied when we are worshipping the Lord, because they are his part and parcel, and that is the purpose of the life.
Oh, okay, Mataji, that was wonderful. So while we worship demigods, actually we may be worshipping demigod. We think it's going straight away to demigod, but actually it's going to Krishna. And when we worship Krishna, actually demigods are very, very satisfied.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
okay.
that's what maybe I will text you that exact shloka number. Yeah. You can read Mataji 9.22, 23, 24 and 25. So those who are 23 says, those who are devotees of other gods who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of me, for they do so in a wrong way. And then he says that I am the only enjoyer, master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature falls down. And then how they take worship. And also in the 7th chapter, he says that I make their faith steady. Yeah, 21, 7.20, 20, 21, 22 and 23. 7.22, he says, you see, endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires, but in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Yeah.
Okay, Mataji. So I'll read all this. So thank you so much, Mataji. It was a wonderful introduction part. You completed so well, and it was so nice for us who are beginners going to learn, Mataji. So thank you so much for your service, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj, and also to you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji, and for your wonderful questions that it will make us learn more and more. As Mataji said, it's like a layers, and then but this is a never-ending layers, because the Lord is unlimited. There are unlimited layers, so we can go on happily peeling layer after layer in association of each other and relishing the nectar. So I thank the organizers of Bhakti Sangha for giving me this opportunity, and thank you all very much. for giving this opportunity for service, and I hope we all please the Lord and please Srila Prabhupada by this discussion.
Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for the class. I have a question, Mataji. In the discussion, like you mentioned, like Krishna is the permitter for whatever activity we do. So how can we understand for the sinful activities that are happening, Mataji?
Sinful activities, right?
Yes, Mataji. How can we understand?
Okay, so he let me read a verse from the 16th chapter where he says that 16.19, those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. So since they have the sinful desires, okay, so see, it's like this, like the government says, if you follow the traffic lights, then you don't get a ticket. If you follow the speed limit and traffic lights, stop at red, go at green within a speed limit, then you are good. But the government doesn't ask us to overspeed or cross the red light. But still there are some people, we ourselves, maybe at some point of time, we overspeed and we cross the red light. So the government is not responsible for that. It is our own desire and determination to do that. But once we do that, we get the result. We get a ticket, either through the cop or it comes to our home. So that's what Krishna is telling, that he is not the cause of the sinful desire. He is telling very clearly in Bhagavad Gita, if you're not attached to Bhagavad Gita, some religion you will be attached to, at least there will be some kind of dharma shastras. In any kind of religion, he is giving. But so he say, you do this and don't do this. Okay, but if we still go ahead and do that, it is because of our own desire and misuse of our little independence, which he doesn't interfere in that, because we are conscious spirit souls, his superior energy. We are not jada. I mean, the phone has no consciousness. I can use the phone like how I want, but we are not his phones. We are his conscious part and parcels. So we have the minute independence into which he doesn't interfere. And that is why, we need to work on our desire and the process of surrender. That's why he says that if you surrender to me, then I can relieve you from all the activities. But then you have to surrender to me. I can help you surrender to me, but then you have to surrender to me. So that's the thing, Prabhuji. Is that clear?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I just have a question.
Yes.
Actually, you said that what our karma is, the devotional service does not affected by our karma, right? But what I have heard in many places and even read that until the Krishna Kripa, we didn't get the devotional service. So how is it? So Kripa, how we can get? If we don't have a good karma, we will not get the Krishna Kripa, right? So then how then?
So, there are two examples in this. Today also afternoon we were reading, Preeti Vilasni Mataji was nicely explaining, right, that how Chitraketu got the next birth. So because he has served Vaishnavas as a king, he has served sages and Brahmanas. So when you have a good karma, it is true that pious people have are more conducive to come to devotional service, because they are naturally pious, they naturally serve others, and when they are naturally serving others, within quotes, that others may include some pure devotees and some brahmanas, and so they get the credit of starting the devotional service, and then they come to devotional service. But what happens in the case of Mrigari? he was a very sinful soul, right? So sinful that he cannot even kill the animals fully. He wanted to have the animals half killed, and he enjoys, like how we enjoy seeing a movie. He's enjoying seeing them, dying. So that much was there in his heart, but still he became Valmiki by the mercy of Narada Muni. So Kripa is causeless.
Okay.
So Kripa is causeless, but still, that's what I said, that it's not a rule that, always pious people only become devotees. People who are really have bad karmas in this life and that life also, they could become devotees because of some Ajnata Sukriti. They might have, for example, even if they have done something bad to some person, and that bad has become a good, and that person has become a devotee, he would have his life to spiritual world will open. For example, you see, I mean, it's a very crude example. Like if we do Rath Yatra in the parades, and there is police allotted for escorting for each float, and there is some police that is associated with our float also, which happens to be a Rath Yatra, and Jagannath is there. So he might otherwise have, and I mean, he has no interest in seeing the chariot, or he is not interested. He didn't take any prasadam, nothing, and he has been all along, and after that also he didn't continue. Also, he is just by his duty of thing, and by chance he has walked along with the Ratha, his spiritual life starts there.
Oh, okay.
And it will never be annihilated. Even if he takes hundreds and thousands of animal births after this birth, this devotional credit is avyayam. It always remains. And when the next spark comes, he will start from there.
Okay. So it's like the mercy can happen anytime. Like the great souls take the chance and they introduce the devotional service to our life, right?
Yeah,
so, and if we take that seriously, then our good karma is started like that.
Right. Okay. And also, like that also, we also have to give out this mercy as widely as possible. Even if they eat a little bit of prasad, even if they touch a little bit of book. I mean, so if that mood of giving away is there, as like how Srila Prabhupada and great sages was there, then that way the golden age sets in soon, and Kali Yuga, takes a backseat.
Okay, thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you so much. I got it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji, for your very wonderful questions and actively participating in all the sessions. Okay, so if there are no more questions, we can we?
Hare Krishna Mataji, a final question because of this discussion. Mataji, in the end you mentioned that Lord Krishna was saying Arjuna that he can make the choice. So he was giving the Arjuna the right to decide what he wants to do. So is that the same answer that you gave to Prabhuji Mataji, that he is a free soul, or like he has his own consciousness and he can make his own decision, like a free will? Like he has the right to make. Okay.
Exactly. So that's why the sinful activities, the Lord is not permitting, because that person is desiring deeply to do sinful activity. The Lord is permitting that to happen, but then he gives the consequences of that also. That what is the result of the sinful activity? So he suffers. And then after repeated sufferings in many births, then by chance, Brahmanda Brahmite Kone Bhagyavan Jiva, by costless mercy of somebody, they come into devotional service, and then we all become devotees like that. Otherwise, how would we have a chance? Being born in Kali Yuga itself is a great, we are all having a great badge of qualification of sinful people to be born in Kali Yuga, but still we are able to be doing a little bit of devotional service because of the causeless mercy of Srila Prabhupada and all his disciples.
Okay, because Mataji, Krishna, he is supreme personality of Godhead. He knows everything, but still he is anyway. Arjuna should be a level lower in consciousness, right? But still he is respecting and is letting him to take the final decision. So, like God is allowing us to do that. So, why is it like that, Mataji? Like we don't allow the kids to take their own decision, right? So that's why I'm asking that question. How did
Okay.
Krishna allow Arjuna to take the decision? Anyway, he is supreme, he knows everything.
Yeah, because see, I remember an example that that a Prabhu gives, because he is bonded with love. See, suppose a son cries and is so adamant and rolling on the ground and crying that I want to drive the car, no matter what, I want to drive. A father dealing with that son is not the same way as the neighbor dealing with the son. The neighbor would slap and wouldn't care, but the father's heart melts because the son is wanting to do something. So what he says, okay, I allow you, you can drive the car, come sit in my lap. So the son is holding the steering and the father is doing the, holding the son's hand and the steering, and he is doing the brake and the accelerator. The son's leg doesn't even go down to the brake and the accelerator, but the son is thinking that I am driving, because the son wants to drive and the father is giving him a experience, which is illusory experience of driving. So, because we wanted to be independent of the Lord has created this whole universe from Mahavishnu to Garbhodakashayi Vishnu to Kshirodakashayi Vishnu to, being the universal form. Everywhere he has made this whole arrangement because we wanted to enjoy independent of him, and we cannot do it without him. Just like the son cannot have the experience of driving the car without the father's help and guidance. So similarly, he has done all this so that the son will realize. I mean, when the son grows up, then the son realizes, how foolish I was, seeing the pictures. Oh yeah, I thought I was driving, but actually you were driving. So similarly, when we also grow up and think that that I am actually not the enjoyer, you are the enjoyer, and I'm trying in vain to become the enjoyer, then then that is the real connection. So that's why he doesn't force. Why he doesn't force? That's the difference between chit energy and achit energy. We are all chit energy of the Lord, superior energy of the Lord. We have that minute independence. We have that free will. We have that free will, like how the Lord is supremely independent, we are minutely independent. But achit energy of the Lord, the jada energy, like the bangle, the cell phone, this is all jada, achit. So this doesn't have consciousness. So there is no question of giving the choice. But because we are superior energy and we have the consciousness, he is giving us a choice. And it is us to, and he expects us to make a conscious decision, a good decision. But he'll give all support, but the decision we have to take.
Okay, Mataji, very nice example, Mataji. So he is bounded with love and is allowing us to take our own decision. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. All these examples, I'm repeating what I have heard in many classes by many devotees. Yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you all very much for your participation, patience, and your wonderful questions and discussion. So maybe we'll end the call.
Thank you so much, Lalitangi Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, all the devotees. Vancha kalpataru vyasta kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Lalitangi Mataji ki jai.
Jai.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.